This is the challenging period.
The surge in positive COVID cases and daily hospitalizations throughout New York State continue to rise, and records continue to break. 2 days into the orange zone, parts of Erie County are showing even higher infection rates. In an update earlier today, Governor Cuomo released numbers showing Lancaster with the highest infection rate in the state, 9.17%, followed by Hamburg at 8.7% and West Seneca at 8.3%.
If you ask me, when are we out of the woods here, this increased activity period, you'll know where you are January 10, January 15.
With Thanksgiving only days away, Cuomo says several communities are now in the warning track. Essentially, they're on his radar. That includes Western New York. So what does it mean? Well, if numbers don't start to drop, he says orange zones could quickly turn red within the week.
It's up to individuals and it's up to individual communities.
Medical experts and lawmakers alike continue to stress the importance of following CDC guidelines, particularly during this holiday season. The more people congregate, they say, the easier it is for this virus to spread and for numbers to grow. While there's no way of exactly knowing how much more spread we could see, Cuomo did say it's not too late to help save our communities and each other. Liz Lewin, Channel 2 News.